You don't have to be perfect to inspire others. You can inspire people by how you deal with your imperfections. The problem is if you always think you're ahead or behind, then you're always comparing yourself to others. Whereas if you're where you need to be, you now just need to get to the next place of where you want to be. The answers are within you, and they become more clearer as you become more silent, more still, and allow yourself to have that inner connection from your inner guide.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like na 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 na. For my top 10, top 10, na 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 na. This one's for my top 10.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Jay Shetty, and my take on his top 10 rules for success. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Love yourself.
And we talk a lot about today self-love and self-care, but I think, a lot of that starts with self-awareness, which we know about, self-knowledge, but self-knowledge creates self-trust. And a lot of it's like learning to trust ourselves. And it's like, if I don't know what I love about myself, how am I ever going to trust myself? How am I going to trust that I have my best interest at heart?
Yeah.
And so asking yourself, what do you love?
Rule number 2, learn to manage conflict.
The number one skill that keeps relationships together is not date nights, it's not movie nights, it's not beautiful vacations. It's knowing how to fight. It's learning how to manage a conflict, because conflict is always going to be there. And most of us don't have the skills or the emotional capacity to go there. And we kind of think that that's like a bad thing. And I think that's part of it, Brendan, is that movies and music and media have created these negative viewpoints in relationships. Like, the end of a movie, and I'm sure this has been said a million times, but the end of a movie is always happily ever after. Perfect, so it ends at the beginning of the wedding, right? It's like they got married at the end of a movie, when for most love relationships, the marriage is the beginning of the relationship. Yes. And so you're watching it only up until the point two people fell in love and they were happily ever after. And I think that's planted this seed in our mind that, relationships have to look like beautiful and wonderful and roses and this and that. And that is part of it. I love that. I'm a hopeless romantic and I love all of that stuff. But at the same time, relationships require like real honesty and transparency and talking things out that are tough and having those awkward conversations and silences sometimes.
Rule number 3, be present with yourself.
Who is the person that I need to be, that I can love, that I want to love, that I want to give more love to? Like, what parts of growth are there still available? And there's one thing I want to add, which isn't a question, but it has been a really reaffirming or deepening affirmation for me that I keep reminding myself, and I think it's helped a lot of people that I've shared it with, is literally some days I'll just put my hand on my heart and I'll just repeat to myself, I'm exactly where I need to be. And
so true.
It's just such a great reminder. Like, if you literally put your hand on your heart and you just go, I am exactly where I need to be, you stop getting lost in the future, you stop worrying about the past, and you realize that everything you need to learn, everything you read right now to make a change, it's all right now, it's all right here. And so that's one of my favorite things to repeat. It's not a question, but
it's more of a mantra saying.
Correct, yeah. We're always feeling like we either feel like we're ahead, we feel like, I'm doing better than everyone, I'm kind of like winning the game, or more often we feel behind, where we feel like, they just got promoted. They just, they got proposed to. Whatever it is, like we're always feeling
they
ahead.
They had their first child or whatever.
They had their first child. They bought their first house, whatever it is. And we're always feeling ahead or behind. And so when you say to yourself, I'm exactly where I need to be, you realize you're not ahead or behind. And the problem is, if you always think you're ahead or behind, then you're always comparing yourself to others. Whereas if you're where you need to be, you now just need to get to the next place of where you want to be.
Yeah.
And also, you only get ahead of yourself by first being present with yourself.
Rule number 4, integrate passion and purpose.
Adam Grant says in his book, Give and Take, I definitely recommend reading it. It's a great read. Adam Grant, Give and Take. He talks about integrating your interests and skills with the needs of others. we start bringing those two things together. I often say your passion is for you, your purpose is for others. He talks about the need for integrating your interests and skills with the needs of others, right? Selfless giving in the absence of self-preservation becomes overwhelming. Just focus on that for a moment. Selfless giving in the absence of self-preservation becomes overwhelming. So those are the two areas. If you want to be a giver, you've got to preserve yourself. You've got to refuel yourself. You've got to focus on yourself too. But that's the difference. The motivation for fueling yourself is so that you can give. That's what it means to do something for nothing, is that you're constantly refueling, re-energizing, preserving, growing, evolving, becoming stronger, becoming better, so that you can give, so that you can serve, so that you can be generous. That's when we start activating our lives to become instruments of compassion. We start channeling a higher energy. We start channeling a greater meaning and purpose in our lives. And that's when what you do becomes infectious. People just meet you and they think, wow, like, what is it about you that I'm so connected to? What is it about you that I'm so attracted to? It's that infectious desire to want to make a difference in someone else's life rather than just be growing yourself.
Hey everyone, I have been reading a bit from my friend's book, Evan Carmichael, Built to Serve, and I wanted to share this with you. So, according to a study by Carnegie Mellon University, people with supportive spouses are more likely to give themselves the chance to succeed. They studied 163 married couples and found that people with supportive spouses were more likely to take on potentially rewarding challenges. Those who accepted challenges experienced more personal growth, happiness, and psychological well-being. Now, I can truly say that I've experienced that in my life. When I first met my wife, I was just starting out. I had never released a video. I hadn't created any content, and she was such an important part of feeling supported on that journey. So whether you're in a relationship, whether you're dating, whether you're married, or even if you're single, being supported by friends and a strong community is important. Built to Serve by Evan Carmichael, great book on how you can find your purpose and also on reminding us that we can all make a difference in the world. Thanks, Evan.
Rule number 5, put your next step forward.
When you look at material society and our world, we're always fixated on the output and the result and the goal. And the monk mindset is really focused on the input, the process, and the day-to-day habits and the now. And that's not me saying we shouldn't have goals. I have goals too. But what I'm saying is that often that part can seem very uncertain, right? Right now, it's hard to set goals. Results are uncertain and the future is uncertain. And the monk mindset actually starts from the back and goes, wait a minute, it's actually our input, our intention, our current process that creates the future that we need and want. And yes, there are everyday things like whether kids are going back to school, whether our jobs are coming back there. And, you know, me and Brendan were talking about this earlier, and Brendan has a fairly large company. I have a smaller company, but there's people that are dependent on me and families and things like that. And so when I think about all of that stuff, I realize that all I can get certain about is putting my next step forward. And I think it's kind of like when you're walking, you've become so comfortable walking, you don't even realize, but actually all you're doing is putting your next step right. You can't think about what's going to happen in 100 steps time because you haven't walked over the ground there. And you don't know how the ground is going to change. So for me, the monk mindset is, how do I just place this next step? Not perfectly, but how do I place this next step with my best intention, process, and habits possible? And what does that require? That requires me to be connected internally to my internal guide. And what does that require? It requires me to find that stillness and space so that I can actually listen.
Rule number 6, connect things.
75% of people feel they're not living to their creative potential. 75% of us, it's huge. 3/4 of us believe that we're not tapping into our creative potential. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that we don't have enough opportunities to be creative? Does that mean we're not creating opportunities to be creative? Creativity allows us to express ourselves. It allows us to bring out the fire in our soul that
artistic nature, that ability to create that we all have inherently within us, and allows us to bring that out in a way that other people can appreciate it, that other people can value it. So creativity can change our relationships, it can spark inspiration, it can spark thought in everyday life. Great quote by Steve Jobs, where he said that creativity is simply connecting things. And he said that if you ask a creative person how they did something, they almost feel guilty because it just felt obvious. It feels easy because all they did was connect one dot to another dot, and that's what creativity is. If you look at technology today, even if you look at something like Facebook, we're all tuned in through Facebook. If you think of the word Facebook, Facebook started out as something that everyone would get at the end of their year in college or university, which would be a Facebook, a book of faces, right? That's one thing. Now the idea is, oh, now we can be online, let's connect that idea online, let's take it online. I've just shared a quote from Steve Jobs where he talked about creativity is just about connecting things. So Victor, if you want to escalate, if you want to make your ability to create exponential, you need to be creating or connecting more things. To connect more things, you need to expose yourself to more experiences, more people, more thought processes that often seemingly don't relate. When they did a study, Harvard researchers did a study on 3,000 executives over a period of 6 years, and they mapped what was the most number one skill for the differentiator between innovators, creatives, and non-creatives. There was one thing that stood out. That one thing was associating, the ability to find associations, patterns, rhythms, symphonies, synergy in seemingly unrelated topics, ideas, opinions, and people. Epitome of that, Steve Jobs was able to make calligraphy relevant to designing computers.
Rule number 7, don't take failure personally.
I think one of my first things in failure is don't take it more personally than it actually is. And I'll give an example of that. When I was applying to 40 companies that all rejected me before an interview, all I was getting was an automated response saying your application will not go any further. I can't take that personally because they didn't meet me in person. They didn't have a interaction with me. They just saw my name. They saw I'd been a monk for 3 years. That resume is useless. I mean, what's your transferable skills? Like sitting in silence and stillness. Surprise, surprise, no one wants to hire a monk. And so they rejected you, but that's not personal because they didn't meet me in person.
Rule number 8, don't seek perfection.
You don't have to be perfect to inspire others. You can inspire people by how you deal with your imperfections, right? You don't have to be perfect to inspire others. You can inspire people by how you deal with your imperfections. None of us are perfect. None of us can claim to be perfect. None of us can be perfect all the time. But the way we monitor, the way we grow, the way we evolve from our imperfections allows others to feel inspired. So you may be thinking, I want to do small acts of kindness. I want to help other people. I want to do something for nothing. But my worry is that I'm not perfect. I don't have everything. I'm not sure that I'm complete. I'm not sure I have anything to give. The truth is that anything you give in that example will have an impact. That's so much about doing something for nothing. That something doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to be lots of money. It doesn't have to be lots of time. It just has to be love, right? Imagine if everything in life was infused with love. Now, call me an idealist, but I'm okay with that because I truly believe that every intention can be infused with love if you really want it to be.
Rule number 9, be still.
When you're traveling, if your partner wants to tell you something and you're living a hectic, busy life, your partner will be scared to actually say, Brendan, Jay, I really need to tell you something, because they just think you're too busy and all over the place. Your body and mind are the same way. Your body, your mind, your soul, they want to communicate with you, but they can't communicate with you if you're always rushing around and everywhere all over the place. So the answers are not within me, the answers are within you, and they become more clearer as you become more silent, more still, and allow yourself to have that inner connection from your inner guide.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is have fun.
Fridge, inspire me, do something. I like following instructions. I'm good at following instructions. I'm going to follow this word for word. Is this still edible? I'm so glad I make videos for a living. Yeah, we've got peppers, we've got jalapenos, got this. Great. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I don't even know if this is enough stuff. Oh, wow. Oh, crap. So there's a lot of new processes for me right now. There's using a blender, there's using an oven, there's using like whatever, like it's like black pepper. Made with love, so that's all that matters, right? All right, going in. Radhi, lunch is ready.
Okay, I'm so excited. So would you? Oh my gosh, you actually made the pepper. That looks so good. Oh my gosh, it's all actually, look how well you presented it.
Try it.
Okay, let me try it. It actually looks so well presented, like I am so impressed.
Tomatoes, peppers, jalapenos.
Genuinely, if I was making it, I'd want it to be this flavor. It tastes so good.
Does it really?
No, like actually tastes so good. Do you want to try some?
Okay. Oh, wow.
Tastes so good, isn't it?
It really does.
I'm well impressed. Great job.
It was really good. I was not expecting it to taste that good.
So now he's gonna cook me a meal every week. Give me a day off.
Now I've got some special bonus clips that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, it's time for the question of the day. I want to know, what was your single biggest takeaway from this video and your plan of action for the next week? When you just watch a video and you get motivated, the science says you have a 35% chance of actually following through. That's not good enough, Believe Nation. We need to take some action. But when you watch a video, you get motivated and you create a specific plan of action, that number jumps from 35% to 91% chance of you following through. And when you publicly commit to other people, like leaving a comment down in this video, your number jumps to 95% chance of you actually following through on the plan you set for yourself. So I want to know your single biggest takeaway from this video and your plan of action for the next week. Leave it down in the comments below so I can celebrate you.
One of the ways of refueling is becoming conscious of where your energy is coming from. See, we're all getting gifts in life. We're all getting love in life. The funny thing is we're not conscious of where it's coming from. We're more conscious of where we're giving. We're more conscious about who we're giving to rather than who we're getting from. That's the first way. Recognize who is investing in you. The second thing is surround yourself by people that buzz you up. Surround yourself by people that excite you. One of the best ways is on this community right now. We've had 2,000 people online. We've had 1,000 people online. We get so many views. All of you, my biggest, greatest joy will be to see all of you connect and create social action groups, to create social impact groups, to create areas in your locality where you can go out together and make a difference in other people's lives. Connect with the other thousands of people that tune in every day to start making a difference. You may say, I don't know where they are in my community. I don't know where they are in my family. But they're online watching with you right now. These are all like-minded people. You're all here because you connect with doing something for nothing. You're all here for a purpose. And the third way of refueling is having your own personal meditation practice, having your own personal growth practice, the thing you go to that gives you sustenance, that gives you passion, that connecting with your why. We had Simon Sinek in here talking about it. We had Gabby talking about how the universe has your back. Finding where that is coming from, connecting with your why and your intention. This man began singing and playing the guitar at age 4. His parents didn't want him to watch too much television. He was banned from playing video games, but he had a lot of books about art. He didn't enjoy school and was even bullied at age 15. A year later, he decided to quit school and follow his dreams of making in the music industry. Now, things didn't go as planned. He ended up homeless, sleeping often on trains just to get by.
This lasted for around 3 years where he had nowhere to live. He spent multiple nights and days performing to small groups, often without even eating. To his surprise, some of his tracks went viral on iTunes, even reaching the #2 spot on the iTunes chart. By the end of the year, his album had sold 801,000 copies, making it the 8th best-selling album of the year. His latest song was one of the most listened to worldwide. His name? Ed Sheeran. Today, he's mentored by Elton John. Paul McCartney says that he's a fan. He's even written songs for Taylor Swift, One Direction, and many, many more. Ed's story teaches us that there's no such thing as an overnight success. He was so shocked and surprised when his album went viral online, but when you look at the struggle before that, you see the pain he had to go through. Often we only view people's success as what we see in their highlight reel, and we forget what they actually had to go through to get to that stage. And that's why the next time you see someone that you think is successful, don't focus on what they're doing now. Focus on what they did to get there. So every morning I sit and I look at my intentions to do anything. So whether there's a new deal on the table or there's a speaking gig that I've been invited to do or whatever it may be, and in your life it can be anything, whether you're starting a new business, you're writing a book, it may even just be an Instagram post for whatever it is. And I look at whatever my options are and I ask myself, which ones of these is a seed and which ones of these is a weed? Right. Because the incredible thing in our garden is that weeds end up looking like seeds and can confuse you.
100%.
So often that thing that's giving you ego and pride and fame and control and power looks like it's amazing.
Right.
But actually it's just strangling you.
100%.
So every day what I'll do is I'll look at the garden of my life and I will try and unweed my garden. So I'll look at everyone and be like, why am I doing that? And ask myself, why am I doing that? And if the answer is not love, compassion, empathy, growth,
right,
personal push, sacrifice, service, if the answer is the opposite, greed, money, power, fame, if those are my reasons,
right,
then I have to take that weed out.
100%.
I have to pull it out, because if I don't pull it out, that weed's gonna keep growing.
Right.
And one day it's gonna be so big,
right,
that I wouldn't even have seen it. I was looking at life and going, what do I want my life to be about? And I saw successful people who were depressed, I saw rich people who were sad, and I saw famous people who in the end had to find a new way of getting happy. And just this week as we're talking, we saw what happened to Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain, and rest in peace to both of them, and blessings and our best wishes and prayers for both of them.
Yeah, and the millions
of other people in the world that we don't know about,
yeah,
like, and the people that we don't talk about and we don't see because they're not famous and well known. At 18, I was awakened to the belief and understanding that if I did not focus on my consciousness, there was no such thing as happiness and meaning. If I didn't go inward, there was no chance of longevity in any form,
right,
because I saw all of this around me.
Right.
So what I saw in the monks that was different is that they almost had tapped in to the way of the universe. And I'll explain what I mean by that. What I mean is that if you observe the universe carefully, every element in the universe is constantly serving, constantly. The water provides us with energy. The trees provide us with nutrition. The oxygen is just fueling our bodies.
Yeah.
And it's taking nothing from us.
Yeah.
You look at the tree, when you take shade of a tree, the tree doesn't say that will be $2.
Yeah.
Right? The tree.
I think about this all the time with
right?
air. I really
yeah,
do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so many things.
And now we're bottling up air and selling it, right?
Yeah.
There's oxygen bars. But the point being that there is every element. The sun is giving light.
Yeah.
And is growing our plants and vegetables. The rain is growing our plants and vegetables. Every element in the universe is serving. And what I learned as a monk, and you speak about this, and we just experienced it so deeply when we were there, is that the only way to be aligned with the universe is to serve. Because then you're acting in alignment. Because the universe is serving. So when you're serving, you are now in the universe. You're now with the universe. The universe is your ally. Whereas as long as you're trying to serve yourself and be greedy, you're now working against the universe. So when people talk about like the universe has your back, or you should work with the universe or be aligned with the universe, that's what it means. Universe isn't about, oh, universe, I want a big car, like give it to me. That's not being aligned with the universe.
Right.
Being aligned with the universe
is choosing service. The stories acclaimed to Alexander the Great. It could be anyone. And I would, if that's not true, then I would just listen in and think of any great warrior or any great emperor or someone who achieved a lot in life. And so the story is of when he's on his deathbed. And when he's on his deathbed, it's said that he had 3 wishes. And those 3 wishes, when his ministers asked him what he wanted, was that he wanted him to be carried by all the doctors to his funeral. So he wanted his coffin and his body inside the coffin to be carried by all the doctors, the best doctors, to his funeral. The second thing is he wanted that path to be laid with everything that he'd gained in life, all the jewels, all the riches, all the money, everything. And the third thing he wanted was that he wanted his coffin to be left open so that you could see his hands on either side. Right? And the ministers looked at him and said, that is the most morbid thing in the world. Like, this is your last wish and those are your 3 wishes. And they said, why are they your 3 wishes? And Alexander the Great explained, he said that I want the best doctors in the world to carry my body because I want the world to see that even the best doctors in the world can't save you from death. He said, I want the path to my funeral to be laid with everything I've gained to show people that you can't take anything with you. And he said, I want my hands to be outside of the coffin to show that we come into this world empty-handed and we leave this world empty-handed. And that's one of my favorite stories, and what I try and imbibe in my videos and live by is that I believe that we all have a finite number of breaths and we all get an opportunity to make them count. And there's a beautiful thought by Maya Angelou where she said, people will forget what you did, people will forget what you said, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And for me, that's what we've got. All of us have this limited amount of time, and all that's going to be remembered is how we made people feel. And so for me, my videos are all about how am I making people feel. If I can give people a feel of self-worth, a sense of personal growth, a sense of confidence, a sense of self-esteem, whatever it may be, I want to use my living time doing that. It's incredible the amount of individuals, institutions, businesses that have absolutely been destroyed overnight because people at the top believed that the way they've done it for decades is the way that they should build the future.
Do it again.
Remember, you can't get anywhere new if you're always doing the old. It's just not possible. One of my favorite examples is about this company that had the biggest market share. They had this opportunity to buy an upcoming business. That business at the time was valued at around $50 million. This large company could have bought this small company for $50 million. They said no, they turned it down. They didn't believe that streaming and online movies were the future. That big company was Blockbuster, and that little company was Netflix. It's incredible now where we live in a world where Netflix is valued at tens of billions of dollars and Blockbuster doesn't even exist anymore. It's incredible how many individuals, institutions, and businesses have had to completely shift, transform, transition, and reinvent, redefine, and recreate themselves to remain relevant. And this is a great message for all of us. We don't have to change who we are, but we have to redefine, reinvent, and recreate our focus, our skills, our priorities, our abilities. We always have to recognize how what we have is relevant for the modern world and all the new challenges that come with it. If we choose to innovate and disrupt ourselves, we can never be disrupted. If we choose to challenge and experiment and test and try new things, then there's no one else who can do that for us. Because most of us can't see ourselves in people, so then we try and fit ourselves into the boxes that we do see. So it's by a philosopher and writer named Cooley, and he said that today I'm not what I think I am, I'm not what you think I am what I think you think I am. And just let that blow your mind for a moment. It's so powerful. I'm not what I think I am, I'm not what you think I am what I think you think I am. So we live in this perception of a perception of ourselves. Hence, my identity is made by what my parents think I should be. My identity is made up by what my college or university thinks I should achieve. While you're living in that bubble and that echo chamber, getting to what you really want to do is impossible. And often the advice I give to people today is fast forward where you are, look at yourself in 10, 15, 20 years time and ask yourself the question, is that where I want to be? If you're in a company, look at the person who's 20 years ahead of you and ask yourself, is that where I want to be? If you're in a startup, look at where other startups have got to in similar roles and go, is that where I want to be? And if the answer is no, then you need to find a new path. We should actually be extremely grateful that some things don't work out the way we once wanted them to. When we get rejected or we fail or things don't go our way, we feel we're further away from our goal. But sometimes it's in those moments that we have the greatest opportunity to reflect, refuel, and refocus. It's in those moments that feel like the death of our dreams that our truest potential is actually taking birth. If a door doesn't open, it's not your door. Often we're trying to climb ladders that are not ours to climb. Is your dream really your dream? Are you chasing what you truly want? I remember one of my mentors telling me that in our pain, we find our greatest power. Success is not built on success. It's built on failure. It's built on frustration. It's built on fears that you have to overcome. Sometimes it takes a good fall to really know where you stand. Every time we think we're being rejected from something good, remember, we're just being redirected to something better.
What are people not understanding about video?
Okay.
What are they not understanding about how powerful it is for their business, their brand, and ultimately their message to impact people?
It's always that same question. What's the ROI on social media? Right? What's the ROI? Now, the funny thing is, your business, work, and service, my business, work, and service literally lives off of social media. So there's obviously an ROI. But the problem is we live in a world where we want everything to be measurable. And there's a beautiful Einstein quote that says, not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that you can count counts, right? And we live in this world where everything needs to be measured. Like, oh, that video has 1 million views, how many sales did you get through that? But it's like life doesn't work like that. There's a load of adverts and billboards on the street that the biggest brands pay for that don't convert into direct sales. Do you think that Coca-Cola looks at the billboard out there and goes, how many people saw that advert today and how many people bought a Coca-Cola because of that advert? They don't have that number. It doesn't exist. And they're one of the biggest brands in the world, but they still do it. So social media and video is just a new billboard. And the biggest brands know that the more you see it, like, I mean, this is funny, I saw this today. I saw a big billboard outside of my hotel that has all the Jenners and the Kardashians wearing their Calvins. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Right, I saw it straight away this morning. Then I saw it on Instagram, and then I saw it everywhere. So already, I've seen it in 3 places. Now, I don't need women's Calvin underwear. But the point is that I've seen it in 1 million places. So anyone who's not using video hasn't understood that more people are gonna see video than anything else. And not just that, video is so much better than a billboard. You can say so much more.
Right.
So for me, it's just a lack of seeing opportunity. There's a great, I think this is a old tale, it's not true, but it's told that when Nike first went to India, they went there, and it's not Nike, it's any sneaker brand, it's a nice story. And when they first went to India, they saw everyone was barefoot. So the first reporter came back and said, oh, there's no market there because no one wears trainers. And then the second reporter went there and he said, oh, no one wears shoes. And then he came back and says, we've got a huge market out there, right? And it's the way you see it. That someone saw no one wearing shoes as no market, but another person saw everyone not wearing shoes as a market.
Right.
And that's what video is. That you can sit here and debate the ROI on video for as long as you want. But the truth is, every major brand has invested in a front window that may not translate to direct sales or work or whatever it is.
Right.
But it does.
Do you think every brand should be using video?
Every brand should be using video. Awakening signifies that we're asleep. When you say we have to become woke or awaken or any of these words that we're using now, rising above, it all means that we're asleep. So even though we think we're awake, we're saying we're consciously asleep.
Yeah.
And therefore, the earth, people around us, conscious creators, everyone you've mentioned, are simply all trying to wake each other up. And we all know that when you don't wake up in the morning, the alarm just has to get louder and louder and louder. And if the alarm doesn't get louder and louder and louder and louder, we don't wake up. And so if you see the earth in a state of emergency, if you see the environment in a state of emergency, if you're looking at the world in a state of emergency, it's because the alarm is just getting louder and louder and louder and trying to say, wake up, like wake up, you know? And so for me, that's the process that we all need to go through. Just as it's tough to wake up in the morning after you've been out to a party, you've had too much to drink, you've done something that you weren't proud of, or you've wasted your time, just as it's hard to wake up every morning when you've done that the night before, it's hard to wake up consciously when that's all you've done for lifetimes, like when that's all you've done for your whole life.
Yeah.
That's how hard it is. And I think that's why we struggle, because we all know how hard it is to just wake up the next morning when you've had a late night.
Yeah.
Imagine you've been having late nights in your consciousness for a long period of time.
I think the big thing is we all are looking for role models when we're growing up. Like, I feel like we all had someone we looked up to. And I was just fortunate, and I have to owe it to fortune and grace, that I was so fortunate that when I was 18, one of my role models became a monk. Because my role models were celebrities, CEOs, entrepreneurs, incredible people who were achieving a lot in the world. But when I met him, I got to meet someone who was truly happy. And I think we meet a lot of people who have a lot of money, who have a lot of success at a young age, but you rarely meet someone who's truly happy. And I think everyone who's listening right now or watching will be able to remember a time when they felt they met someone who is happy. And I'm sure that's a rare memory, but it exists. And I was so captivated by that happiness that I felt this person was experiencing that I was like, I want that. You know, and you feel that. Like, I always say that it's always the common denominator in the room. If you're in a room with someone who has millions of followers, you'll be like, oh, I want that. And if you're in the room with someone who has a yacht, you'll be like, oh, I want a yacht. And if someone lives in a fancy home, you'll be like, oh, I want a fancy home. Like, we always want what we feel in the room. Like, the person who has the most in the room becomes the most desirable. But for me, I was so fortunate to be in a room where someone was happy, and that became the most desirable thing. And I was just seeing around me, I was aware that I was looking at people around me who had money but were sad, who had the love of everyone in the like relationships, whatever, like the best looking partners, whatever, and they still were sad. And I was just looking around me at 18 and observing that I couldn't meet someone who's really happy apart from this guy. And so it's like, I want that. So I ended up spending all my summer holidays from aged 18 to 22, half of them in bars, steakhouses, and working in the world of finance in London, and the other half living as a monk in India. So I call it my first ever split test, or my A/B test, where I was literally like, I'm gonna live the paradox. Like, I'm gonna go from living up large, like, you know, having fun, having the best relationships, drinking, going out, whatever it is, and I'm gonna compare that to the opposite. And I can totally say, by doing that experiment 4 years later, I was convinced that the experiment of living as a monk was more meaningful, more purposeful, and made me more happy. So I was like, it's a no-brainer. So that's how at an early age, it was just an experiment. And that's why my consistent recommendation to anyone listening is experiment with stuff, like try stuff out, go and live it for a week, live it for a weekend. Don't just think about it in your head. Like, get out of your head and get into action. So if I just thought about it, I probably wouldn't have done it. But getting to experiment with it taught me so much.
Scientists have known for some time that changing your body through actions like smiling, sitting up straight, and relaxing can change your mental and emotional responses. When we change our body to sit up straight, to smile, to connect with others, to engage with presence, we automatically change the responses in our mind. We allow ourselves to feel better, to think better, and to live better. It's incredible to know that simple changes in our body language, in the way that we're sitting, can impact our emotional mood states. So much more insightful research has been done into this space, but if you can just take a simple step today to change your posture, to add a smile, and to relax a little, you'll see how much your mind will be at ease. And the biggest pressure I think we feel is we're rushed by other people's timelines. We're rushed by the success and achievement of people around us, or we're rushed by the supposed success and achievements of others we see on social media. And the biggest thing I'd say is give yourself permission to take time. Give yourself permission to recognize that living your passion and creating a purpose takes time. For some people, they've waited till 30 or 40 or 50 or 60. We want it to happen in our 20s.
but your best years are yet to come.
I'm almost 30 and I don't feel like I've accomplished anything in life. I made a promise to myself while I was at university that I would get a job that excites me every morning. But right now I'm afraid I'm not going in that direction. That note was written by a young person. And when I read it, my heart sank. I felt that way because I know so many people that are in that exact position. I remember when I decided to trade my 9-to-5 for a 24/7, it was because I wanted to do something that was meaningful every day. I wanted to do something that was purposeful and fulfilling from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to sleep. The one thing I didn't know before I started is how achievable that was, but also what it required. When I transitioned from my 9-to-5, or actually my 9-to-9 to a 24/7, I realized that I was going to have to work harder, smarter, and faster. And that step was full of fear, full of anxiety, full of insecurity, full of questions like, what will happen if it doesn't work? What will people say? Should I just have stayed where I was? I went through all of those emotions all at the same time, and then something came to me. I wrote down the various options that I had in life at the time, and I wrote a word above them that I believe summarized the experience or the result of what I thought that would give me. Some of them said ego, because I thought those career paths would give me a boost to my ego. Some said security, because there were certain roles or jobs I could take that would provide a certain level of financial security. And then one path said the word love, because I knew if I did that I would love every moment, even if it was truly challenging and sometimes really difficult to deal with. And that's why I'm here today making this video, speaking to all of you, because I chose the path that had the word love above it. Try that exercise, try that activity out to try and differentiate the motive, the intention behind what you're choosing and selecting in life. Now, just because you choose the word love doesn't mean that everything's going to be smooth sailing and that you're going to be successful. It's going to have its own ups and downs. And that's why wherever you go with your heart, take your head with you. We're so lost in these false identities.
Right.
In the same way as the body's one identity, and then the second identity is, oh, well, I'm from the US, you're from the UK. I'm from India, you're from Africa. That's one other identity. It's another layer we've added to ourselves. Then another one is, I'm from this city. Rep my city, right? I'm representing my city. I'm New York versus Chicago versus London versus whatever. And then beyond that, it's my sports team.
Right.
And then beyond that, it's my family.
Now it's social media.
Yes, now it's social media. It's my following, this. And it's we're constantly ruining our own understanding of our own real identity by putting on fake costumes.
Yeah.
And it's becoming a method actor.
Right.
We're all method actors where we're lost in the identities we've created for ourselves.
Yeah.
So I often like to think of it like Inception.
Yeah.
We have lost ourselves in an identity, in an identity, in an identity.
Right. Like that, which I think you have talked about this before, that perception of a perception.
Correct. Yeah, one of my favorite quotes from Cooley is, I'm not what I think I am not what you think I am what I think you think I am. And we lose ourselves in that.
Yeah.
But I want us to almost be pulled back. It's like falling down a well and being so deep, or falling into the ocean and being so lost deep, and you need someone to come and pull you out.
You seem to be someone with great confidence and wisdom at your young age. And I wonder, are there moments when you doubt yourself, when you think, well, this isn't right, or am I doing the right thing, or am I creating the right message today?
Hugely. And I think that's a practice that I hope I never lose. Because I think that's the practice that makes you want to learn more. It makes you want to refine your message. And it also stops you from putting out content for pressure. So I think we live in a world, especially on social media, where there's such a pressure to put out content at volume and to keep up with everyone else's videos and numbers going up and views. And for me, that checking system that you just spoke about, that's what helps me step back and go, do I really believe this? Or did it just sound good for a moment? So I hope I always keep that doubt. I find it as a valuable tool. And I'm always going around in that process. I had that recently where I got offered book deals from everywhere I could have ever dreamed of after my first video went viral. And I've resisted signing with anyone because my personal goal is to write a book that I actually believe in and not write it just because it's going to sell well. And so a lot of people are like, you're taking too long, but I'm just like, but it's a book. People are going to pay money and spend their time to read this book. The content has to have substance, and I have to really feel like I've crafted something of value. So I love that. I love that I doubt myself, and I hope I never stop. Have you ever seen someone successful or famous and thought, I could do that better than them? So what's the difference? Why is it that they're out there achieving their goal while you're not able to? See, people underestimate the value of volume, the potential behind how many doors are you ready to knock on? How many tweets are you willing to send? How many people are you willing to ask for help and ask for their guidance and steers? We hardly achieve anything the first time we try. The people that have made it, it's on their 10th, 20th, 100th, sometimes 1000th attempt. So don't underestimate the power of volume. Don't underestimate what's possible when you go out there and speak to everyone that you know. We spend over 47% of our time when we're browsing the internet or on our mobile phones procrastinating, and we check our phones around 86 times per day. Put your hand up if you check it more than that. So it's no surprise that we all face distraction. We all experience distraction. We're all plagued by distraction. But often we think that the opposite of distraction is focus. We think that we need to become more focused. We think that if we're focused, we'll feel less distracted. We feel that if we're able to draw our energy in a certain direction and force ourselves to absorb in an activity, then we won't be as distracted. But this is just not true. The opposite of distraction is actually not focus. The opposite of distraction is, wait for it, attraction. Let me explain what I mean. When we're attracted to something, we're completely fixated, we're completely absorbed, we're almost addicted and obsessed to that visual, that song. What we really need to do is increase our attraction. When we're attracted to something, we're naturally focused. We're naturally able to be present. We're naturally able to bring our attention and our energy to that task, that project, that person. When we're distracted and don't have that attraction, we're naturally all over the place. We end up feeling lost, confused, and end up procrastinating.
As you can see, we are procrastinating and distracting others.
So now I know what you're thinking. How do you get attracted to things that you're not attracted to? We all have things in life that we love to do, and we all have things in life that we have to do. Let's take the example of your job. It's something that you have to do. It's something that you may not be attracted to. When you ask yourself, why do I go to my job? Maybe the answer is, it pays my bills. Maybe the answer is, it allows me to take care of my family. Maybe you studied for years and feel that your job at least engages you for that. Whichever one your answer is, that starts providing some value to why you do that activity. When you know that, you recognize that you're attracted to be there because it serves a particular purpose. You start becoming attracted because whenever your mind says to you, I'm bored, I'm distracted, I'm unfocused, you say, no, I'm here because it puts food on the table. I'm here because it pays my bills and takes care of my family. I'm here because I studied and worked hard for this. You're able to increase your attraction to even the things you're totally unfocused on. Now, if you found yourself distracted or unfocused for too long, that definitely can mean that you need to find more meaningful, fulfilling work. But no matter what you do, no matter how much you chase your passion and live your purpose, there will still be things you have to do on a daily basis that you don't find interesting. And naturally, you will feel unfocused and distracted. For that, ask yourself this question. Why am I here? Or why am I doing this? And you'll find the mind will start to become attracted to that activity, task, or even that person.
Steve Jobs said that you should never start a company with the goal of getting rich. It should be about starting a company to make something you believe in. We should dream to make a difference, break down boundaries, build beyond borders, and ignite ideas to innovate incessantly and create for people what they can never conjure up themselves. Henry Ford said that if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. And that's the beauty of going beyond wanting money and going beyond wanting fame and going beyond wanting power, that you actually craft something that evolves people's daily lives, that you actually create something that enhances someone's human experience. People respond to people who want to do more than just gain for themselves. We're attracted by selflessness. We're attracted by renunciation. We're attracted by the quality of when people want to give rather than take, when they want to share rather than keep, and when they want to do and serve rather than just hold.
Steve Jobs said, being the richest man in the cemetery doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is going to sleep feeling like we've done something wonderful.
When I was 22, I decided to turn down my corporate job offers and go and live as a monk in India for 3 years. And half our days was silence and half of it was service. So we meditated for half the day and the other half we were trying to serve humanity and make a difference in the world.
Wow. So that is why you decided to not just be in India and be a monk. You decided it's better to be able to share this knowledge.
Yeah, well, when I left and came back, I was in debt. I moved in with my parents, age 26, and I was trying to figure things out. But a lot of my friends now worked at large organizations and they were going through stress and burnout and pressure. And so they started to invite me to speak at their companies about everything I'd learned as a monk. And I started to do that, and I started to see impact inside these organizations. But I really felt, I was like, this knowledge and wisdom needs to reach everyone in the world. It needs to reach further than just corporate boardrooms. So in 2016, only 3 years ago, I started making these videos, which were these wisdom bites. And thankfully, to all of you and many others who've watched them, they started to spread. And Arianna Huffington was someone who really supported them and gave me an early tipping point too. I'm not telling you to not work at a corporate. I think corporate experience is great. What I'm saying is, don't lose this voice. Work till 6 p.m. every day, then go home and work on what you actually care about. Use your weekends to not be on Instagram and actually do what you care about. When you do that, you're investing in your meaning. You can be making enough money and make the switch. That's what's up for all of you who have a great degree, have a great education, you've got that job lined up. Use it. Just don't become a servant of that job. Don't just say, oh, I'm in prison now, I'm just going to use my weekends to hang out. If you do want to do that, that's cool too. If you say to me, Jay, actually, whatever you're saying, I don't even want that. I just want to hang out and have a good time. I don't even want meaning or purpose. That's cool with me too. But if you want to be happy and you want to be fulfilled and you want to have an impact on the world, then use your time wisely. I used to go home after my corporate job at 8 p.m. and edit till 1 a.m. on my own every day. So do your job, get a job if that's where you need to go with it. If you can't go all in, be safe, be secure. But then don't waste that time on not doing that and then complaining that you don't have what you want. This 2-year-old girl was watching a cartoon in her parents' living room. At one point, one of the cartoon characters started to cry. You could actually see the tears coming out of their eyes. This young girl grabbed a tissue from the living room, walked up to the television and started to wipe the screen, trying to wipe the tear of this cartoon character. It was an incredible show of kindness, compassion, empathy, and love from this 2-year-old girl. She truly believed that the cartoon character was crying and that her with the tissue would be able to wipe away its tears. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And that was when I realized that we're wired for generosity, but educated for greed. When we're young, we have this energy to give, to serve, to be compassionate, to be loving, to be kind. But as we go through life, when we're faced with people being extremely challenging, when we're faced with manipulation, when we're faced with people we don't trust, that also makes us close up.
I gotta pick a cabinet to hide in.
What can you do today that could make a difference in someone else's life? What could you say to someone today that would absolutely change their week or their year? What is the one thing you can do that can truly change the experience of even just one person on the planet?
I have to think about it.
My favorite quote from Muhammad Ali is that service to others is the rent we pay for our room here on earth. There's a thought that I love which says, you know who you are when no one's watching. Like what you do when no one's watching, that's who you are.
Yeah.
So we all know when we're alone whether we choose meditation or Netflix. Like we know when we're alone whether we choose, for a lot of people out there, whether they choose reading books and learning or pornography, right? You know when you're alone what you choose.
Yeah.
And I think that really helps you overcome your ego, because when we reflect on ourselves when no one's around, that's when we're truly uncovering who we are. One of the points, and I'm getting to the ego point, but and I loved what you just said now, that if you sat here and said, I have no ego, you can't say that. And I agree with the same for myself. If I sat here and said I had no ego, that would be a complete lie. And there's a beautiful story of Benjamin Franklin, that he had his 13 precepts before he died. He had 13 qualities that he wanted to attain in life before he passed away. They included things like integrity, simplicity, honesty, virtue, etc. So these were his 13 set. And at the end of his life, he was asked, which one did you not attain? And he said the 13th one. And they said, what was that? And he said, humility. And that, for me, almost means that he conquered it, because, you know, he was able to accept that he didn't conquer humility.
That's almost like
and
how he ended it.
Yeah. And I was like, this is amazing, you know? And it's true story. And 13 Precepts are great. Read the book. It's there, Benjamin Franklin's book. And so the reason why I'm sharing that story is because the way you overcome your ego is to recognize that you're simply a channel or an instrument. When you recognize that you're an instrument, and whether you believe in the universe, whether you believe in power, whether you just believe in mentorship, you recognize that everything you're giving is because someone's given to you and someone's given to that person. And therefore you're becoming a vessel, an instrument, a vehicle for the greatest powers in the world, and just being a channel for that. And that allows you to feel two things. One thing is you feel liberated, because now it's no longer your burden. It's not like, oh my God, I've got to be the most amazing person in the world. It's not like, oh my God, it's all on me. You're actually like, wow, actually, yeah, I learned from that teacher and that teacher and that teacher and that teacher. And now I'm just a vessel for everything that I've gained. And I'm able to channel it and transfer it to others. So it liberates you from the pressure and the burden of like, oh my God, like everyone's expecting me to give the best talk of my life. Like, you know, but when you realize that you're not, you're just a channel and you're just a transfer mechanism. And the second thing that it does is that it allows you, whenever your ego gets in the way and says, yeah, we're doing well, like I did that, you start recognizing and you get perspective and gratitude on the fact that no, actually I'm gonna pass this, whatever good's happening in my life, pass it to my teachers, pass it to the people that shared it with me. Because there is no one who is self-made. We talk about self-made millionaires. There is no one. That word shouldn't even exist. Yeah. Because none of us are self-made. I'm not self-made. You're not, like, and that's not a.
It's a cool term though.
It's a cool term,
but it's definitely not true.
Yeah, and it's not true, and it's not a diss. Like I'm not criticizing it. This is not like a slight dig at anyone for using the terminology at all. All I'm saying is just that if we all truly reflect, and I don't want anyone watching to think I have to be self-made, because if you have to be self-made, then you're gonna have to self-fall too, right? And everything will be self, and you'll fall on your own and you'll rise on your own.
One thing I've been observing is that achievement or ambition is broken down into 5 stages. Learn, experiment, perform, struggle, thrive. Right now, the challenge with all of those is that we want to thrive all the time. We want to be in thrive zone. We want to be winning those awards, getting those views, getting those messages, getting those likes all the time. We want to be noticed and recognized. But actually, if we took a step back, we realize we need to be learning, we need to be experimenting. And so what happens is that we get confused by where we are, and so our expectation of what we want is totally blurred, and we start chasing a false reality. And that's why we find that we get disappointed and confused when we know we should actually be performing. We actually need to do, we need to act, rather than chasing that thriving feeling all the time. So next time you think things aren't working out, next time you feel you're not on the right track, step back and ask yourself, should I be learning? Should I be experimenting? Should I be thriving? Should I be performing, or should I be struggling? And that one comes around a lot more than you can imagine.
So how do I find my passion? My simple model, which is the Dharma model. Dharma means eternal duty in the Vedic tradition. It's very similar to what Ikigai is being spoken about today, which is a Japanese version of reason for being. Why do we live? Where is meaning coming from? And it talks about an intersect of 4 areas. What am I good at? What do I love? What does the world need? And how do I get paid for it? To me, those 4 help you unlock your passion. When you find the intersect across all of those 4, you're making your passion your purpose. You'll unlock your passion, you'll find your purpose. This is path 1. There's 2 paths. Path 1, I find my skill set and I engage it to help other people and become better at it. So I'm becoming better at what I'm good at, and I'm using it to help other people because I'm aware of what I'm quite good at. And I know what knowledge I have, what skills I have. I have some self-awareness. The other path that people often miss is actually I just start serving people. I just start helping people, and I start to notice what I enjoy about that and what I'm good at helping people with. So that's Gandhi's part. Gandhi said that you find yourself when you lose yourself in the service of others. So for me, those are the 2 paths of how do I find my passion.
and finding the intersect between those 4 areas.
Are you a motivational speaker? Is that what you do?
I like to call myself a storyteller because I feel what I'm trying to do is tell the stories that we all live. And I was just sharing with you earlier that I genuinely believe that the answers that people are looking for are inside of them. And I'm just helping people excavate and become archaeologists and kind of dig in and find that through them. So I don't call myself a motivational speaker because people may watch my videos and it may not be motivational. It may be reflective. It may be introspective. It may be insightful. It may be emotional. It may even take people to a place they don't want to go. So I love sharing my stories as a storyteller. Simply what I do is make wisdom go viral. I have this fascination with wisdom, insight, deep thought, and I believe that that wisdom belongs to each and every person on the planet.
Yeah.
And so my desire is to scale that through entertainment, through storytelling, through video, in a way that wisdom becomes accessible, relevant, and completely involved and engaged in people's daily life.
First of all, you have to remind yourself that it's okay to feel the way you feel when you're going through a difficult time. It's okay to feel weak. It's okay to want to cry. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. Just reminding yourself that it's okay. This is my number one way of how to find strength in difficult times, is reminding yourself that the way you feel is okay. To honor that feeling, to accept that feeling, to actually be okay with that, what we see or what we perceive to be a weakness or what we perceive to let us down or what we perceive is a sign of, instability or insecurity. We've got to remind ourselves that when things are tough, it's okay to feel that way. There's nothing wrong with that. Any difficulty I go to, I look to moments in history where people have endured the same pain, if not more extreme, and analyze, absorb, and connect with how they got through it. I like to see what they were thinking. I like to see what they did. I like to see how they structured themselves. I like to look at how they organized. I like to look at who they were speaking to. I like to look at what was going through their mind at that time, because you've got to remember that any challenge we're facing today, we've faced it before as humanity, right? Beyond ethnicities, beyond color, race, creed, beyond backgrounds, beyond all walks of life. As human beings, we've been through challenges before and we've got through them. And therefore, reconnecting with how that's been done before is a beautiful way of learning how to overcome current challenges. So you can either look at your past, but real wisdom lies in looking at the past of people who made a difference. You look at people like Martin Luther King, you look at people like Gandhi, you look at people who made world-changing differences, not single-handedly, but influenced from a single perspective, from a single point of view. I've said this quote many times, I've read it many times, and this quote actually is unbelievable. And the quote says that they thought they buried us, they didn't know we were seeds, right? It's a Mexican proverb. They thought they buried us, they didn't know we were seeds. And I was thinking, when you tell yourself that story, you start thinking much more differently. Right? A seed is buried too. It's incredible that the seed goes through the same process as anything else. It's put deep underground, right? All of this mud is put on top of it. It gets rained on, it gets snowed on, all these kind of things, but it knows that it's a seed. So it knows that it can grow, so that anything's possible. And it grows through, and you see even plants growing through concrete sometimes, right? It's unbelievable how much power a seed has. So changing the stories we tell ourselves, we can either look at challenging situations as opportunities for growth, as an opportunity to learn, as an opportunity to change, be the change, or we can look at them and really feel down. Now, that second part is okay. We can even feel like that, right? But we have to recognize it's not permanent. We've got to accept that none of our feelings are permanent. They don't need to be permanent. It's a choice. So if you need to vent, vent. I was saying to someone yesterday, if you need to vent, vent. If you need to rant, rant. If you need to complain, complain. If you need to share how you feel, do that. But recognize that those feelings are not permanent, and it will be amazing when we realize we are seeds, right? That is the most powerful way of finding strength. In the middle of 2009, he was the software engineer that no one wanted to hire. He had 12 years of experience at Yahoo, but he was rejected by Facebook and then rejected by Twitter. He'd been to a great university. He had a great CV.
But he decided to team up with one of his alumni members at Yahoo and started to create an app and focus on the startup space. In 5 years' time, he sold that app for $19 billion to Facebook. Believe it or not, that was Brian Acton, the co-founder of WhatsApp. When he was rejected from Facebook, he said it was a great opportunity to connect with some fantastic people. I look forward to life's next adventure. When he was rejected by Twitter, he responded by saying, worked out, it was quite a long commute. It's so interesting to see that someone rejected from two of the top internet companies actually responded with humor and actually responded with positivity. This lady was diagnosed with clinical depression. Her marriage had failed and she was jobless with a dependent child. She was on a 4-hour delayed train journey from Manchester to London when she came up with this idea, and she started to write this book about this wizard. And as she started writing, she then finished her manuscript, took it to 12 publishers and was rejected by all 12. Believe it or not, that's J.K. Rowling. This man watched his first company crumble. He was a Harvard University dropout and his first company's demo didn't even work. He went on to build Microsoft. His name's Bill Gates. Therefore, failure is just a sign that we need to widen our scope. We need to be ready and build ourselves up for the next level. Actually, what we end up achieving is far greater than what we'd envisioned for ourselves. And this divine plan, this orchestration can't be happening without this intervention that occurs, because if we had it our way, we'd just settle, we'd just accept what we thought was our goal, what we thought we were chasing. But actually, I've noticed that when you don't get that, later down the line, you look back and you reflect and realize that what you've gained is so much greater. Failures are only failures when we don't learn from them, because when we learn from them, they become lessons, and we actually extrapolate all of these teachings and actually get more insight into how we can improve the way we work and how we can actually drive with a different energy. The challenge we have is that we only talk about people's failures when they succeed, and that's why they become this taboo, or we feel like their failures never happened. We need to share these stories earlier. We need to bring out these stories and experiences on the journey so that people who are on the journey can actually follow in those footsteps. And that's why Steve Jobs said you can't connect the dots moving forward. You only can when you're looking backwards.
There's a beautiful story of Benjamin Franklin that he had his 13 precepts before he died. He had 13 qualities that he wanted to attain in life before he passed away. They included things like integrity, simplicity, honesty, virtue, etc. And at the end of his life, he was asked, which one did you not attain? And he said the 13th one. And they said, what was that? And he said, humility. The reason why I'm sharing that story is because the way you overcome your ego is to recognize that you're simply a channel or an instrument. When you recognize that you're an instrument, and whether you believe in the universe, whether you believe in power, whether you just believe in mentorship, you recognize that everything you're giving is because someone's given to you and someone's given to that person. And therefore you're becoming a vessel, an instrument, a vehicle for the greatest powers in the world, and just being a channel for that. And that allows you to feel two things. One thing is you feel liberated, because now it's no longer your burden. The second thing that it does is that it allows you, whenever your ego gets in the way and says, yeah, we're doing well, like I did that, you start recognizing and you get perspective and gratitude on the fact that no, actually I'm going to pass this, whatever good's happening in my life, pass it to my teachers, pass it to the people that shared it with me. Because there is no one who is self-made. We talk about self-made millionaires. There is no one. That word shouldn't even exist. Because none of us are self-made. I'm not self-made. You're not. Like, all I'm saying is just that if we all truly reflect, and I don't want anyone watching to think I have to be self-made. Because if you have to be self-made, then you're going to have to self-fall too, right? And everything will be self, and you'll fall on your own and you'll rise on your own.
If you want another amazing video highlighting excellence in the Indian community, check it out right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.